Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode appropriately numbered 33 of High Street Sports. My name is Chris. This is Vince. This is the Buckeye Show. Welcome back. Thank you guys for all the engagement, views. We've had a really good last 4 or 5 episodes. So the Buckeye Show is definitely growing. The channel's growing as a whole. We appreciate all the support. Whether it be comments, likes, subscribes, shares, any of that stuff, and all of it helps, and we appreciate you guys all for it. So we're back with another episode for some Buckeye talk. Vince, what's going on, man? What are your thoughts on kind of what's going on right now for the Buckeyes?
First of all, thanks everybody for all the love, and be a friend, tell a friend. We would really appreciate that. And as we get into bowl season, this should be fun. Transfer portal season is, I don't know, it kind of started off with a bang and now it's kind of lame. But it is what it is, and here we are. So Honda McCord on to Nebraska. I heard they have a Honda dealership lined up for his NIL as well. I think he gets a Accord Sport for it, so that he can put that Honda McCord in sport mode.
I don't know if that's quite been made official yet. However, those are the rumblings there that Kyle McCord and Julian Fleming at least have some type of interest in Nebraska and going out and joining Matt Rule and company out there for whatever that might be worth. Also, news in the Nebraska front with that Kyle McCord situation is the ever revolving door of the Dylan Raiola situation. He has also been reported to have interest and is now crystal balled by, I think, a Georgia insider, as well as maybe a couple others to Nebraska as it stands right now. So, good buddy James Yoder put out on Twitter the Tate Martell-esque kind of numbers and schools and stuff that Dylan Raiola has been involved with, whether it be high school or college football commitments there. So, yeah, a lot of happenings there. Matt Rule, a lot of people kind of took his comments, earlier this season as like a, maybe complaining, maybe, whatever he was talking about the portal, basically saying that a quarterback was going to cost him $1 million, $1.5 million or $2 million. And now it kind of seems like that's just been a bat signal maybe that he put out to the Nebraska NIL people to say, hey man, like if we want to be competitive,
that's what it's going to cost. We need
this
it.
is what we got to do. And it seems like that might be in order. So, I don't know how competitive. I saw a couple tweets that said that, Nebraska is taking one of the brightest college quarterbacks in the country if they get Kyle McCord, and their room could go from horrible to one of the best rooms in the country if they can get Kyle McCord and Dylan Raiola. They can pull that off somehow, which is interesting to me, how now all of a sudden people are talking about Kyle McCord like he's some, first team All-American. But anyways, so as I mentioned in the open here,
yeah.
What's up?
No. Just Dylan Raiola, 4 high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his third. This would be, I believe, the third school that he's committed to if he commits to Nebraska. So
yeah,
really good lineage there.
28 months or so is what I read too. Like it's been kind of crazy how he's bounced around. But yeah. So, anyways, moving on from all that garbage. As I mentioned, this show is appropriately the 33rd episode of High Street Sports here. And what better way to connect those two dots than to talk about Devin Brown? Ever since Kyle McCord decided to jump in the portal, Devin Brown famously put out the tweet of the burning boats in reference to the Vikings and burning the boats to basically symbolize that they had no other choice but to finish the job and stick things out. And Devin Brown is primed to be the starter for this Cotton Bowl against Missouri. The kid, just drips confidence. He's got everything that you would want out of a quarterback. His comments were good the other day when he had his media availability. So, just kind of interested to see, Ohio State is, Riley Leonard chose Notre Dame yesterday, and it seems as though Cam Ward is headed down to Miami and Florida State, I believe, to take some visits there. No interest, I don't think, in Cam Ward out of the Buckeyes, or so it doesn't really seem. What do you think about where the Buckeyes are at with Devin Brown? What do you think we're going to see out of Devin in this offense in this Cotton Bowl?
Yeah, I think the Devin Brown factor. First of all, you were mentioning he drips confidence. Is that what the kids mean when they say that somebody drips or has drip?
Yes. Close.
Sorry, I had to. It was definitely necessary. No, I think that Devin Brown is going to really bring this offense to another level because you have a guy who's willing to extend the play and will get out there and run. He also has a cannon. He also likes to throw to Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes. So may see a lot of those guys. And Emeka coming back for the bowl game at the very least. Denzel Ward and Jack Sawyer as well. So Denzel Burke. I do that every single time.
Their play mirrors each other quite nicely. So I mean, it's
I mean, and they look similar as well. Body. They're both long dudes, long arms, long bodies. Fairly good prototypical corner guys. But no, I think the offense is going to be. I think it's going to be taken to a next level just because you now have that run threat in Devin Brown. I don't think he's going to run around a ton. I think maybe total he has 10 carries, something like that, maybe 50 or so yards. But that threat and in the red zone, the run threat is going to be huge. I think right now it's also trending that Trey probably coming back next season. I think you need to get him a bag and make it happen because Trey with a mobile quarterback and that run threat, running some of those zone reads and things like that can really, really help this offense out. So I'm looking for an offensive explosion. It sounds like these guys actually want to play Missouri and want to, I guess this kind of reminds me of the Ohio State Arkansas Sugar Bowl game against Ryan Mallett, rest in peace. Mm-hmm. Ohio State won that game. In reality, if you ask the NCAA, it's vacated. But in reality, they won that game. And I kind of feel like this might be that same a similar moment for Ryan Day. And he's really looking to kind of take that next step, and slaying an SEC beast would really kind of turn some narratives. Yes, I understand Ohio State's probably favored in this game. I haven't looked at the lines. I'm not a bettor. So
I think last time I looked after the transfer portal announcements that came from the players, I think it was Mizzou -2. So at the time, yeah, push basically.
Yeah. So, I don't think that, I think Ohio State could be favored in this game. I think that this is going to be a really good opponent. They gave Georgia some trouble a couple of years in a row. I think that this Missouri team might be a pretty good team to get a gut check on the state of the program. And I think that, beating an SEC team in a bowl game will be important for Ryan Day and this squad going forward, because I think now you've got a couple of core pieces coming back on offense, likely. If Trey does actually stay, I think he's said this week his future's still undecided, just like pretty much everybody. I take that as we're waiting for our NFL grades and then going to make a decision there. But I think you're going to see some guys come back and be surprised, and maybe these guys are hungry and want to run it back. I don't think that Marv is coming back. I know he said that he's keeping his options open. I think it would be a great idea for him to come back, but I think you're a top 3 overall pick this year. You've got to stay and go to the draft.
Yeah, especially coming off of Bolitnikov, and
Hmm.
and that's one thing that we would be remiss if we did not mention. Marvin Harrison Jr. wins the Bolitnikov, and a bit of a toss up, bit of a controversial decision between he and Malik Neighbors. But I think Malik Neighbors, again, his beef with the Bolitnikov is not with Marv; it's with the Bolitnikov and Jalen Hyatt last year. So, that situation
Hmm.
kind of is what it is. I think if you look, Neighbors had an incredible season, but Marv is who he is, and he was able to walk away with that trophy, and rightfully so. So, yeah, I don't think you can bank on Marv coming back. I think. He's I think it's more of a let the bowl game play out how it will, and he'll make that announcement probably shortly
Hmm.
after that. Emeka Egbuka, though, I think there is some real um, optimism that he could actually potentially come back. I think that's if you're looking at the two, I think Emeka
Hmm.
is definitely the more likely of the two to return to the Scarlet and Gray next year. And then Travion, obviously a bit of an up and down last couple of years for him injury wise, and when healthy, in my opinion, he is the best running back in college football, and he has shown that time and time again. So is it a strike while the iron's hot kind of deal for Travion? Don't risk another year with potential injury, or is it say come back, and if he can get a nice NIL bag and come back and be a big piece
Hmm.
to what the Buckeyes are going to do, with the loss of Evan Pryor, who today committed to Cincinnati, and Dallin Hayden in that room too. It's kind of it'd be
Hmm.
Travion and Dallin unless they can scoop a transfer portal running back, and then of course you've got the talented freshmen that are coming in this offseason. So, there's definitely some question marks there. Another question mark is the tight end position. Joe Royer announced that he was going to enter his name into the transfer portal, which leaves the Buckeyes, pretty bare at tight end as well.
Hmm.
So Cade's going to play in this game. We'll see a lot of Jelani Thurman as well in this game. Get a good look at him and his progression over the season, and what the Buckeyes are looking at with him in that room next year. So again, a lot of intrigue for the Buckeyes.
Hmm.
Devin Brown, I think, is a guy who is hungry. And I think, just based on what he's put on social media, who generally speaking, he is a pretty quiet guy on Twitter. I haven't really seen much of his Instagram, but I don't really think there's a lot of activity there. I think he's a guy that again dealt with injury over the season with an ankle, and has really since Kyle was named the starter, kind of had a chip on his shoulder. And I think with Kyle's departure, there's a chance for him now to really kind of show what he's been working on, and where his progression is at too. So, a lot to be excited about. I think if you're an Ohio State fan, you look at the receivers, the young guys that are going to get a lot of playing time in this game. With the
Hmm.
subtraction of Marv will not play in this game. Julian Fleming is out. So you'll see a lot of Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, and it's going to be exciting to see a lot of what the future is going to look like for Ohio State. And I think Jack Sawyer's comments are absolutely true. There have
Hmm.
been a lot of guys on the Buckeye beat who have said that this game virtually means nothing, and I think that really rubs some of those guys the wrong way. And Jack Sawyer made that known. He said that's bullshit. And
Hmm.
everybody in that locker room wants to win that game. So, anytime you get a chance to end the season on the right foot, as they've been saying, and line up against a formidable SEC opponent, there's no meaningless game about that. And so, the Buckeyes are going to want to win this game. And as you mentioned, in comparison to the 2010 Sugar Bowl,
Hmm.
Ohio State started to get a little bit of a narrative behind it of this team can't win the big game, and this team can't beat the SEC. And I think there's similar takeaways here, as my dogs go absolutely bonkers. That I think Ohio State has a chance to kind of turn the page on that sort of narrative. Not being able to get past Michigan in the last 3 years, not being able to beat Georgia last year in the Cotton Bowl and play for a national championship, and so there's some things that Ohio State I think wants to shake off. And it starts at the top with Ryan Day and Devin Brown. So we'll see what kind of position that this team is in, and I don't think there's any shortage of hunger in these Buckeyes. So it's looking to be a fun matchup with Missouri, especially when you look at the young, promising talent that Ohio State's going to be able to put on the field on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of tight ends, while out recruiting tight ends at the Ginn Academy, tight ends coach Keenan Bailey was carjacked this week. Not injured, doing well. The rental car that was stolen was chased by the police and ended in what appeared to be a crash. So good to hear that our guy Keenan Bailey is doing well after this. He was there to recruit Damarian Witten, who's going to be a tight end coming in, and then also Bryce West from the Ginn Academy, which is essentially an extension of Glenville, but it's focused more on the kids who need some help and play sports. So good on Ted Ginn Sr. for trying to do something for his community. Kind of shitty circumstances there. It's like, man, you should know that this ginger white dude walking up in the hood wearing Ohio State gear is probably recruiting someone, and you don't want to screw that up for the rest of the hood because people are getting out. Like, come on, man. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So leave the coaches alone. They're just trying to help your friends, okay? But no, I think you're right on there. I've been kind of worried about the tight end room after this season. G. Scott, does he have another year? I think he does.
I think so.
Even with, I think him and Cody Simon came in together potentially.
Mm-hmm.
So G. Scott could use another year. Would be nice to see him step up in that role and be the guy. But I think Jelani Thurman, that kid is a freak of nature. Just looking at him playing the little bit that he did this season, my goodness. So I think you got to get him some reps. I think the biggest focus on this game for the tight ends should be blocking the run, because we've seen all season tight end blocking has been average at best. And I think for that room to improve, they really need to improve their blocking. Cade Stover's been one of the most clutch guys on this team all season. So you really don't have to worry about that from them. I think that, even G. Scott, he's got the ball skills, converted wide receiver into a tight end. So he's got the ball skills. He can run routes, but you got to be able to block, man. And I'd love to see that from Jelani Thurman. Need to just get some dudes. Maybe the carjackers. Keenan should recruit those guys and put them on special teams, man. Hey, sometimes you just need a guy that isn't afraid to stab somebody. I think that Schleggs has talked about that. I don't know how many times, and Bobby Carpenter. Gotta
have shankability.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be able to, you got to have at least a couple of guys that are carrying a gun or a knife around, and they're ready to, do something for those guys. I think though Devin Brown is that guy right now on the offense. He's just got that fire. I think that he is competitive by nature and does not care about the noise outside, and he just wants to compete and be the best that he can be, which is why you saw him kind of take that step this season. I think by him sitting behind Kyle and seeing what happened and the way that it played out shows how much of a competitor he actually is, and kind of says that maybe Kyle leaving was a blessing in disguise for this Ohio State team. We'll see here on December 29th, but I think that, I think that the Devin Brown show is going to be fun to watch. And him throwing to Brandon Inniss, Carnell Tate, and Emeka Ibuka, That's not too bad, right? I mean, that's a
I could think of a lot worse situations for a first time starting quarterback to throw to. So absolutely not a bad gig at all. One side note that I found interesting and that was on
Mhm.
Twitter, and again I don't know how much truth there is to this, but it seems as though a lot of people found out about Kyle McCord's decision to hit the portal on Twitter. Um, and I don't, obviously don't want to speculate here because if we're not in the room, we don't know, and we don't really have any insight into any of those situations. So don't want to speculate too much here, but I think if that is true and that a lot of the teammates found out about this decision on Twitter, I think that tells Buckeye fans everything they need to know about what that situation turned into, and I think it will be beneficial for Ohio State in the long run.
Breaking news, new development.
Okay.
Um, the Honda dealership pulled out of the recruitment and NIL package, and Kyle McCord is moving on from Nebraska, per Pete Nakos of On Three.
Okay.
He says that he's going to keep his recruitment open. So what that tells me is
Dylan
Devin
Rayola to
Raiola,
Nebraska.
yep, is going to, and Kyle McCord does not want to compete anywhere. He
No.
wants to go in and be he wants to go in and be the guy wherever he's going.
Which
So
which is
enjoy,
fine.
yeah, absolutely, but
Which is
enjoy
fine.
Bowling Green.
Yeah, like I don't understand, and again, like I don't want to throw any shade on Kyle McCord because he, as we talked about on the last episode, he stepped into a bit of an impossible situation, right? So like
Mhm,
you have the pedigree at quarterback that Ohio State has developed, and the standard at which Ohio State has adopted that quarterback play to look like. And I get it. Fans where fans are coming from. He's a 5-star kid, and
mhm.
you have your 5-star all world talent buddy at wide receiver who you know is
Marv
going to
was a
be,
4-star, by the way.
anyways, he's going to be the number one receiver taken in the draft.
Yeah.
So you have everything you need to succeed at Ohio State.
Mhm,
And the fact that you had the season that you did with somewhere around 32 to 3,400 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 6 picks, like that's not a bad season by any stretch. But the problem
mhm,
is the competitiveness. And again, I don't know Kyle. I don't want to speculate on his competitiveness, but you kind of saw everything you needed to see in the last 8 minutes of that Michigan game.
mhm,
And to me, when you just sit on the bench, and you could be in the zone, you could be whatever. But in my opinion, what I want to see out of a quarterback in that situation, and what you would have seen out of CJ Stroud, Dwayne Haskins, Justin Fields, is somebody up and down the sideline telling their offense that they're going to go win that shit. And you didn't
mhm.
see that out of Kyle. So
No.
if what's been reported is true, and Kyle and his dad wanted a guarantee that he was going to be the starter, and you're not going to find that situation anywhere worth a shit as far as
Mhm.
wanting to be there. So if that's the case, and if that's what Kyle's going to be about, then more power to him. I hope he finds success, dude, but that's not a winning formula.
Yeah, no, what I was not trying to throw shade at him in any way,
No,
shape, or form.
no, absolutely not.
I just think that his actions have showed he does not want to compete for a
No.
job. He
Mm-mm.
feels as though he should be the guy wherever he goes. And with the Rayola, development to Nebraska, it really kind of shows that. And I guess it doesn't show it; it validates it.
Correct.
From a situation where, okay, you're going to go in and you're going to compete against Dylan Rayola, who's supposed to be a 5-star all everything, can't miss. But the kid's been to 4 high schools, played down in Buford in Georgia this season, had a loaded roster and couldn't win a state title. So, what, as a college quarterback who's already started for one of the best programs in the nation, why are you worried about Dylan Rayola?
there's not really much of an upgrade, in my opinion, that Kyle McCord can find himself, like a situation that's going to upgrade what he was already in at Ohio State. And that, to me, if you're looking at it, especially from that standpoint, and then you might have a buddy going with you in Julian Fleming and whatever that situation is, but you, I don't understand. And like
Mm-mm.
again, if he I think it was the right move for Ryan Day. And there's this notion that Ryan Day and the Buckeyes pushed him out of Ohio State. Clearly, that is not the situation. So,
No.
In my opinion, given the way that this season went, the way the offense looked at times, and Kyle McCord showed great flashes, and I
Yeah.
don't want to take that away, but there have been a lot of people that have made the point, and it's true that you shouldn't. The flashes from Kyle should not have been few and far in between like they were. It should have gotten more consistent throughout the season, and it just didn't. And
Yeah.
so, I just, there's something there. And I think another year of development, and I think this is the opinion of a lot of people, another year of development with Ryan Day and that offense and those athletes and, everything like that comes with being the quarterback at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
You could have seen a different Kyle McCord. And if you're that confident in your ability, then just go win the job. But to me,
For
that
real.
shows a mentally fragile football player.
Yeah, I think that, part of it too is he may not be the most competitive guy in the world. He's got a lot of talent,
Yeah.
but I think that there is a driving factor here. And I think part of it is his dad trying to live vicariously through him. And that can be a problem too. So
it's the biggest problem in sports with
Mhm.
kids. It's
Yeah, I was
awful.
thinking about this the other day. Is Kyle McCord, is his dad LeVar Ball 2.0? I mean, he's not loud and obnoxious like it, but he certainly is trying to assert himself into a situation with his son who's actually going out and performing and has no say in it, or should have no say in it, but he's trying to assert himself into the situation. So it's like, dang, dude, like, why don't you just back off? Let the kid play football. Maybe he would enjoy it. And maybe that's why his development was stunted. You don't expect a quarterback in Ryan Day's offense for 3 years to look like a first-time starter and a guy that you're like, is that freshman Kyle McCord, or is that, so it stinks. Best of luck to the kid. I hope that he succeeds wherever he goes, probably like Bowling Green, something like that. I mean, and to be honest, he might ball out in the MAC. And you know who else balled out in the MAC and had a really good NFL career? Ben Roethlisberger. He went to the University of Miami. Miami University. I always get those mixed up. Miami University here in Ohio. And he retired 2 or 3 years ago after having Tommy John surgery. I mean, he had a long career. So, maybe he can turn into that. I don't know. I think that there was something there stunting his development. Could be his dad. It could be the coaching at Ohio State. I don't think it's the coaching at Ohio State, but
I would like to also point out, and I don't know if I've made this point on the show or not. I think I've mentioned it to you off air, but there's just something about the dynamic of Kyle and Ryan Day when Kyle would make a mistake and come off the field. It was almost like, especially later in the season, it almost got to the point where Ryan Day was like, come on, dude, like this is game 8, 9, 10, and we're still having this conversation. So it seemed like there was a little bit of a rift between the two. But again, we'll never know, and we can only speculate on what we've seen. So, but yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate the way that it played out, but I think it's going to turn, in some good fortune for Ohio State as far as Devin Brown goes, because you got to figure, I don't know that if Kyle would have stayed, if Devin would have left. But you got to figure that there would have been maybe a shakeup in the Ohio State quarterback room. And I think with a second year Lincoln Keenholz in a third year Devin Brown and a
And a
freshman
third
Aaron
year
Nolan.
Malik Murphy.
Yeah, I think
I'm kidding. Malik Murphy, he just jumped in the portal. So
oh,
that
okay.
that likely means that Quinn Ewers is staying, obviously,
Yeah,
and Arch Manning is going to be the number
probably
2
staying
next
as well.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting develop there because they thought, there's a lot of people that thought that Arch Manning was going to be the one to jump in the portal. So,
I'd take
um,
Malik Murphy over Arch Manning all day, every day. So
yeah,
just because of what Arch Manning has shown, and that's nothing. We
yeah,
know Malik Murphy can go play. We've seen
yeah.
it.
And he when he got his chance, he played pretty well
Hmm.
this year for the Longhorns. So yeah, but it's a situation where I think Ohio State's quarterback room is going to be just fine for people wondering. And I think that kind of segues into what I think I was going to ask is, is it a problem if Ohio State doesn't take a portal quarterback? And I, I think in terms of depth, I think they should take one like another Tristan Gebbia or somebody of that
Hmm.
nature. But if they don't go get a Cam Ward, if they don't go get a Dylan Gabriel who they've already missed out on, and something, if Ohio State wanted those guys, there's a good chance we would have gotten one of them. So I think there's a reason why Ohio State hasn't jumped at these guys,
Hmm.
and it just kind of is what it is. I think the room is going to be in a good spot no matter what.
Yeah, so you think about the room, what it's going to be next season. You've got Devin Brown, you've got Lincoln Keenholz, you've got Aaron Nolan coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you do need 4 quarterbacks on the roster. So
Mm-hmm.
do you take a preferred walk on to put a little bit of depth in there, or do you go and wait until after the or after spring practice to see what you've got? Because I think Aaron Nolan's coming in early.
He's coming in
So
January, yeah.
yeah, so then you see what the 3 guys you got, and if you've got a whole bag of ass, then maybe you might want to go find one of the guys that's still out there, or decided, hey, I don't want to be the backup at Texas or Alabama or whatever, and get some scraps there. Maybe that's the play. But I think Ryan Day has shown he does not want to rush into decisions when it comes
Yeah.
to the transfer portal. I also think there's a little bit more at play there in the Ohio State NIL cannot get the money that they need to. They stink. The only one that has been fairly successful was the 1870 Foundation, and it sounds like they're not doing very well right now either. You've also got the Foundation, which is Brian Schottenstein and Cardell Jones. Ohio State won't touch them, which makes 0 sense to me. But
Well,
that's
they had that Twitter spat back and forth between the two collectives, and that just I think wasn't a very good look.
yeah.
But
But even
whatever.
before the 1870 Foundation, they didn't mess with the Foundation. So it's like I think NIL is in shambles. Is
Yeah,
really what
well,
this has to do
and
with too.
we can spend an hour and a half, 2 hours
Mhm.
talking about NIL, and we can at a later date. But yeah, I think I also think it boils down to the fact that Ohio State's just not going to be willing to throw that kind of money at somebody, especially if they're a one-off or
Mhm.
whatever the case is. So there is still a little bit of tradition in college football, and not saying that Ohio State is going to grandstand on that or anything like that, but there is a limitation, and there is
Mhm.
a point at which they kind of look around and kind of agree that okay, this is a little bit ridiculous, and they just won't engage in certain things like some other teams and other conferences will. So
Mhm.
they're gonna have to figure that out because that's had a pretty uh, noticeable impact on recruiting. And again, all conversations for a different day. But yeah, so
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you need to look at is what has Clemson done? They're not doing anything, and their program is a whole bag of ass right now. So Just saying, maybe, yes, go look in the portal, but find the right guys. But also, if you need to, send the bat signal out to get that NIL money.
Yeah.
I get it. Not I NIL is yeah, you're right. It is a topic for another day, but yes, it
Yeah.
is.
And it's also a situation though too where like Ohio State's not going to be the team that is just a revolving door. And I think you see a lot of people that like Alabama, for instance, hasn't been Alabama over the last couple of years because they have relied heavily on the portal for a lot of their important positions. And it's not the same. And like, granted, we're talking about a team that's sitting in the playoff
Yeah, I was going to say, don't
as we
look now, but
speak.
they're probably going to win that.
However, it's not been the same Alabama that we're used to seeing over, the last 15 years. So I mean, it's a situation where like you got to be careful with it, and Ohio State is careful with it, and
Mhm.
they're confident in their recruiting as well. So they keep recruiting at a top 3 or 5 class clip, and that's not going to change for Ohio State. So it's relying on what you're bringing in, relying on what you're recruiting in the high school ranks, and letting the chips fall where they may everywhere else on the roster. So as we're talking about letting the chips fall where they may on the everywhere else on the roster, good offensive conversation there. We'll move
Mhm.
and talk about the defense just a little bit. Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, all expected to play in the Cotton
Mhm.
Bowl. All of which still I don't think have made any sort of decision on their future past that game. But it will be good to see those guys get out there one more time and
Mhm.
hopefully make that decision to come back, especially Jordan Hancock, Jack Sawyer, JT, and even if Denzel decided to come back, it would all be huge for Ohio State. But we talk about the transfer portal and that kind of thing, and Davison Igbinosun is a guy that the Buckeyes added who in the
Mhm.
first 2 or 3 games of the season kind of struggled to get his footing, but developed into a really nice player for Ohio State as the season went on. You look at a guy like Lathan Ransom. Will he take a chance at the last remaining year of eligibility that he has and come back for a 5th or 6th year? Probably not. So you look at losing Josh Proctor, you look at losing Lathan Ransom. You've already lost Kai Stokes. The Buckeyes have been reported to have, I think it's UCLA, safety from UCLA on a visit maybe this week. One of the top-rated transfer
Mhm.
portal safeties will be in Columbus on a visit. So there could be some turnover there. Steel Chambers, I think, has an opportunity to maybe have another year, or he's either out altogether. And then Cody Simon decided to come back. So really the biggest pieces left are the 4 that we mentioned, the 4 that I mentioned at the top of the defensive conversation, and then Tyleik Williams and Mike Hall. What are they going to do? So, Tyleik had an incredible season this year, really was, dominant as we've ever seen Tyleik, and his comments of, we got some stuff to finish and we got some business to handle in this bowl game.
Mhm.
We're pretty telling as to the growth that Tyleik has had in the last year or two. So what are your thoughts on the defense as to where it stands right now? And obviously the Buckeyes need to add a safety, but what's your confidence with the Silver Bullets going into next year?
Going into next year, I was going to say, going into the bowl game, I feel great. I think that basically you get everybody back. I don't think anybody's announced that they're sitting out or anything like
No.
that. Um, I I feel all right about the defense. I think the biggest thing for me is, what are we going to do there at safety? Do you move Sonny to a full-time safety spot? I think you probably do. Um, and kind of move him around, use him like you kind of did with Lathan, and bring him into the box. They were bringing him into the box quite a bit anyway when he was in relief for Lathan. But I think that might be what you do there. And then what do you do to replace Josh Proctor? Jihad Carter was a hot steaming pile. I think he was a senior anyway. So I I don't think you got anything there. You might have a dude in Malik Hartford. I thought he played fairly well for the time he played as a true freshman. So you've got these 20 bowl practices plus then you've got a full spring. So he could be one of those guys. And then it also all depends on who's coming back in that cornerback room too. Because if Jordan Hancock comes back, which I think he should, I don't know if he will. I think he should though. That gives you 3 legit corners, and one of them can play that nickel spot and is not afraid to hit and do those things. So then I think that kind of has a play in what you're doing at safety as well. But as far as linebackers go, I really like Cody Simon coming back. I thought that he was a senior this year, which he is. This is his 4th year in the program, so he's taking a COVID year to play next year. But he's one of those kids that if Tommy or Steele did not play as well as they did, he would have balled out and he would have been a starter most other places in the nation. So really solid to have him back. And then you've got CJ Hicks on that other side. So potentially, if he can win that, then you've got also Gabe Powers, who highly touted guy, hasn't done much at Ohio State. There's just been a log jam. It's hard to play a lot of guys when you only play 2 linebackers pretty much all the time in your base defense. So you don't get a solid rotation there. Mike Hall, I think he's gone. But I'm not as concerned about the defensive line. We still have this guy at coaching there. His name's Larry Johnson. A lot of people think he should retire, but I don't.
Nonsense. Hogwash.
I don't see that. I don't see that need right now. So you still got Larry Johnson. He's a legend in coaching defensive line. He could have been a head coach I'm sure he could have been a head coach anywhere he wanted to a couple of years ago. And he's said, no, I have no interest in that. So you got a great one there. You also have Jim Knowles did not get the Duke job or turned it down. And we don't know.
I don't think he wanted it.
I don't think he wants a head coaching job. I know he was previously a head coach. I want to say it was at like Princeton or Harvard or something like that. It was that's going to bother me. But he was, and I don't think it went very well for him. And he hasn't been a head coach since. And you really haven't seen him want to do that. It was Cornell, by the way. I knew it was an Ivy League school, but just shows he is a pretty smart guy. And you want to see him. I think he sticks around for quite a while. And I don't think he's going to take any head coaching jobs anytime soon. So happy to see that. I think the defense is going to be in really good shape next season. But for this Cotton Bowl, I think that you're going to see the bullets that we've seen all season. And I expect that type of play out of them. And then if we can get this offense going with Devin Brown.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, Devin. Sorry, Kyle. Didn't mean to do that to you. But if we can get that offense going under Devin Brown, I think that this is going to be a really cool Cotton Bowl to watch. I haven't heard a lot of hype, especially in the beat, but I get it. Guys don't care as much anymore about non-playoff bowl games, but here's the thing. It's still a New Year's Six bowl, and it's still one of the best bowl games that you can go to non-playoff. So I think you take that trip, you go down to Arlington, Texas in December, you enjoy the experience, and you go out there, try to get better as best as you can, and use it as a preseason game and kind of the momentum to go into spring practice, and get back after it for the 2024 season. I know I said this last week. Yeah, exactly. I know I said
Get
this
me
last
going.
week, but
Wait, Liz, who gives a shit if it's not a fucking playoff game? Let's go.
right.
Okay. Let's
I said it
go.
last week. We need to treat this like it's a preseason 2024 game and not an NFL preseason game where you play dog shit players. I want to see all of the dudes. I want to see them all go out there and ball out and bring that momentum into winter workouts and then just channel all of that hate from all of the haters and go out there and beat Michigan at home next year. I don't care if we lose every single game next season.
He's lying.
If we beat Michigan, that is a successful season. And if Ryan Day does not understand that fact, then I will go down to the Woody myself and remove him. But we need to win that game. So treat this as the game before the game. And treat every game like it is the game before the game.
Yeah, I mean it is one thing to a whole lot there to unpack. A, he doesn't have a thumbprint to get into the Woody, Ryan, so I think you're good. B, yeah, I mean it just
You don't know
it's
who
a
I know.
That's true. It is a situation where I think the Buckeyes are going to see a lot of good out of this. And when you really look back on it and take a step back and unpack the season for what it was, and a successful season in a lot of rights, and in a couple mishaps in a big mishap for the third year in a row for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. But I think it's a situation where you do have a lot of young guys on the roster, and a lot of young guys that are going to be on the field, and some guys that are big pieces moving forward, and a lot of really good guys on defense who are going to have a great future in the NFL, whether it's this year or next year. So I think this is a very good football team. And I think there's a lot that Ohio State fans need to really, really not take for granted. And the fact that, even if we're playing in the Cotton Bowl against Missouri and on the outside looking in the playoff, like, once again, this is a really good football team.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that I think take that for granted. And again, we hear the standard is the standard a lot, and that will never change at Ohio State. Like, the goal at Ohio State every year is to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, and play for a national championship. And Ohio State is not far off from that. They've shown that the last however long. And they just need to figure some things out and right the ship, and damn it, burn the boats, Devin Brown. Let's get this thing going. So
Burn them boats.
it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have more going into the Cotton Bowl for you guys against Missouri. Obviously there's going to be some more developments with the roster makeup and potential coaching staff changes, which still haven't been made, and that's neither here nor there. And there's going to be more coming, a lot more to talk about with this Ohio State team going into the Cotton Bowl and even beyond, going into the offseason. So once again, guys, we're excited for the Cotton Bowl. Vince gave a hell of a pep talk that maybe the team should watch. So we'll be here with you guys leading up to the Cotton Bowl and after. Once again, thank you guys for showing up. This has been episode 33 of High Street Sports. Like, comment, subscribe, be a friend, tell family. I don't care who you tell, as long as you tell somebody.
Tell your dog with a YouTube account. We don't care.
Yeah, as long as they have thumbs, it can work. So
pause
again,
will work.
yeah, it is what it is. As long as they can, just put a treat on the mouse and just have it click that button.
Or if you have a cat that likes to, jump on your keyboard and mouse. Sorry, I'll stop derailing you.
Meow. Anyways, guys, thanks again for coming back. This has been High Street Sports. My name is Chris. This is Vince. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.